Thanks for coming in, Jim.
Well, thanks for having me today.
Yeah, we appreciate it. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's start out. You just want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you ended up in Burlington?
Sure, I can do that. Well, first off, my name is Jim Keehne. I am the city administrator for the city of Burlington. It's a great opportunity for me and my family to be able to move to Burlington, and we did so 3.5 years ago, and have enjoyed pretty much every minute of it since we got here. So I'm really excited to be here. We came here from the western slope of Colorado. We lived in a small town above Delta called Cedar Edge, and we had offices down in the Delta area. And we managed basically business concerns throughout the Delta Valley, all the way into Montrose and into Grand Junction. So,
Gotcha. And then, but you also had a law enforcement background, right? And that was in Gunnison, or?
Correct. Yes, I have 23 years worth of law enforcement experience that all was done right there in Gunnison. I started in Gunnison right out of college as a police officer, worked my way up through the ranks, and retired as chief of police there in Gunnison in 2005. So.
Wow. So are you a native of Colorado, or?
I consider myself a native, but no, I'm not a native. I was born to a military family, and my father retired from the military, his last posting being Fort Carson here in Colorado.
Oh, gotcha.
And that was back in the 70s during Vietnam era and everything. And but I spent junior high and high school here in Colorado, and then went on to college, and then while in college, I transferred out to Kentucky and spent some time out there going to school as well, which was also a great experience.
Gotcha.
Seen a lot of the country, a little bit of the world anyway too.
Got a taste of it and said, I want to go back to Colorado, and
Absolutely,
that's where I want to be. Yeah, it's a great place to be for sure.
Absolutely.
So you went from the western slope basically to the eastern plains.
Yes, but I did spend my formative years when my father's last posting was Fort Carson. So, we lived in Colorado Springs there. So I was familiar with the Eastern Plains, kind of knew what to expect out here, as well as my wife actually has family out here as well, which made the transition out here from Delta to here really, really easy. And it was the easiest move I've ever made. So.
Oh, gotcha. So you knew what you were getting into, going from kind of mountains right over to plains and farms.
Just a different view site. That's it. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So basically you've been here for about 3.5 years.
Correct.
Is it what you thought it was going to be going into this when you got here?
Absolutely. There's always challenges with every job, every position, every employer. There's always challenges that you can accept and try to deal with and overcome, or you can pack up and leave. And I always like the approach of I like to jump in with both feet and try to get the job done to the best of my abilities.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you were interviewing and going through that process, did you guys talk about what the big challenges were going into this?
Right.
And I guess, were those the challenges how it was presented to you? Were those the actual challenges that it ended up being? Obviously, sure. Pre-COVID, I know things are way different now.
Yeah, totally different right now. The biggest challenge when I came on, my first day of employment here was the day that we broke ground on the water quality project, where we constructed a blending plant, basically modified 3 different wells that contribute to water to the blending plant. And so I was thrown right into this project from day one. And they told me in the course of the interview that, they asked me what I thought the biggest challenge was. And I told them right there with doing my research and things that it looks like the biggest thing that we have to deal with is the water issue here, and get that thing resolved in a positive manner for the entire community. And we were able to do that. Took us a while, a full year's worth of work to actually get that constructed and approved and basically in process. And since the time that we have turned that system on, there has been no violations, quality violations to our water since the time that we turned that on. So I feel that that's a huge success story for, for the city of Burlington, in that, the city went to work, took hold of the situation that was there, and resolved it. Yes, it did take a lot of funding and time to get this done, but it was all done on behalf of the people of the community of which we serve, and very proud to serve as well.
Right. Well, and you got thrown into that. I mean, that was like right into the middle of that whole process going on. So
yeah.
Well, and then obviously we've got COVID now, right? So I mean, what would you say? And the opportunity we have here is to get to talk to the Eastern Plains, to talk to Burlington, really get the message out, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
We have city council meetings and people are welcome to watch that, and it's streamed, but it's also, I think it's a good format to just let folks out here know kind of what we think the biggest issues are now. I mean, things have changed so much since February, obviously. What do you think, I guess, what would you say the current status of where we are as a city? Where are we at it right now? And then what do you see the biggest challenges being going forward?
What I see, I think that I'd like to start anyway by talking about the process that we've kind of gone through to get us to where we are today. And this all started for us here in the city anyway, well, in the county and statewide, in March, when all of a sudden we were directed through the governor's office that we were going to basically be shutting down. We knew that something was coming, but we didn't know to what extent that it was going to be here. And with the first orders that came down, I think that our response to that was basically like, wow, we're being ordered to do things that are probably right to do in a metro area, but not so much here on the Eastern Plains, where we're not even affected by this thing yet. At least we know what to do, but this was statewide mandates that came down rather than dealing with the different pockets that were springing up. But we took it all in stride, implemented the processes here, started carrying on doing our business. But the biggest challenge through all of this has been that the rules have changed on this virtually daily. And so trying to stay up to speed on, okay, now what are the new orders that are coming down? What can we do? What can't we do? How do you talk to the business community? How do you address some of their needs through all of this? And so it became a little bit challenging. Not only that, but it really became challenging for us to even, as government, to even hold meetings. Sure. And so, for the first time ever, we went to a virtual platform, which was, I think, challenging for those that actually implemented it and did it. For me, I got to sit back on the sidelines and say, okay, here's what I want. Can you do this? But it all got done. It all got done, I feel, in a timely manner. And I feel that we've done a pretty good job keeping the community informed to whatever extent possible on what the new orders are, how this is going to affect them and the different businesses and things like this, and we've worked very, very closely with the county and with the Department of Health to make sure that this information is disseminated in a timely manner and that the message is consistent across the board, which is always important when you're managing emergency type events that we have. So I feel that we've done pretty well. Today, we're at a point where the county has received a lot of variances to the executive orders that have been issued through the state in kind of reopening at a faster rate than, say, they are there in the Denver, Boulder areas. And so I think that we're doing okay there. We still got a lot ahead of us as far as tackling, and I don't know what's going to be the result of reopening at a little faster pace or not. We got to just kind of track that and monitor it on a daily basis still, in the hopes that we can continue to open up fully and get back to whatever becomes our new normal. So,
right. Well, and I remember back to that, and as a business owner and a citizen out here, it was just kind of chaotic. I mean, nobody, moving target. I remember February, March, all these things are happening. You're getting stuff from news media. You're getting stuff from social media. They're obviously everyone wanted to be safe, but nobody really knew. And so at least I guess from that perspective, everyone was fighting that battle, right, all across the country.
Sure.
And I feel like we have. I feel like that message has permeated and been good. It has been a crazy time, though, even as a business owner, having to deal with these type of things. As far as going forward, the community and openings and closings, what do you think, what does a normal day look like? How do you find this information? When you go in, do you get a bulletin? Are you on with, is it from the health department? Does it come from the governor? How do you keep up with all of it?
There's a few different resources that I go to on a daily basis. One is the national news feeds and things so that I can stay up to date on the new numbers. I track and actually chart the worldwide COVID numbers, the U.S. COVID numbers, the state's COVID numbers, and then Kit Carson County's numbers.
Right.
As well. And so I chart all these things because, as we've heard on the news and through other sources and things, the main thing that what we're trying to accomplish here is what they call flattening of the curve. So if we can see the incidents of COVID-19 that are being reported or found out about, if we can see that taper off and just, kind of flatline, that means we got control of the situation. Associated with that then come number of people that you still have in the hospital that are affected by this, and number of fatalities that may be associated with this. And the numbers are really, really skewed all the way around when it comes to this. And I feel that, but overall, is that the U.S. has done a really good job on reporting, and that other countries have not done as good a job as we have on this. And so it makes us look bad in a global light. If you look at the total numbers, and the U.S. is responsible for like 25.6 or 8% of the total number of cases, worldwide.
Right, but how will we even know? How can we
will.
attribute and say that that's actually accurate reporting, right? Like if it's coming, we'll use China. Like how can we even know if those numbers? We almost have to toss that out, right? We can't verify that or validate it.
And that's why I pay attention to what's going on out there, simply so that I can see, are we seeing spikes elsewhere other than here?
Right.
So that we can plan and prepare effectively for what we believe may be coming
down the pipe.
Yeah. And so, but I don't put much credence in the rest of the world's figures or anything like that. I don't think that anybody here in our county probably does.
Right.
But when it comes to the U.S. numbers, I really pay close attention to those, and because that's where we can see, especially with our neighboring states, are they having outbreaks anywhere? Are we going to be affected by what's going on? And so, we just have to be aware. And so, that's the first step that I do every day as far as where my information comes from.
Gotcha.
And so I gather that, it takes me, 5 minutes to get that information. It's not real difficult to get. And then from there, we also, what started out as through our local Department of Health, we were doing daily briefings through the last 2 weeks of March and basically all of April.
Right.
In May, we tapered that back to a couple of times a week, and now we're down to one time a week where we're actually basically meeting virtually and talking about, okay, here's what we're seeing, and that's through all facets of of government. And so, we even got state representation there at these meetings. We have our Department of Health, we have the hospital, we have the school systems, we have the CSU Extension Office, we have county officials, we have city officials, we have other municipalities involved in these conversations. Not only that, but places from other counties as well participate in ours. And we talk, we share information, we tell each other what we have going on, what we've experienced, what we may be needing help with in the future and things. And once a week, I'm also attending the virtual meetings that the state has
Gotcha.
through a couple of different entities. One is through CML, and the other is through Department of Local Affairs. Also does a weekly brief as well.
Right.
So we're getting really good information out here. We've got all kinds of data and everything else, but what's coming?
No,
it's still just a guess.
Right, and nobody knows.
Yeah.
And it seems like to me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the commissioners were on top of trying to get a variance, right? I mean, from everything I could see,
absolutely.
Everyone was being proactive, saying, "Hey, look, Eastern Colorado is different than Denver.
Yes,
it's going to be." And it seemed like there were counties in the mountains making that same argument. Hey, we don't have the cases. We're spread out. We're more outside. We don't have the number of people in close quarters, so it's different out here. And it seemed like the governor and other people realized that and did help us make progress in opening up. So, I mean, it feels like to me things are getting more close to normal. And of course, safety is the most important thing.
Absolutely.
But it feels like that to me, that things are getting normal, or more normal, I should say, as far as like some things that maybe people might want to know. Obviously, today's the 24th of June. So when this airs, it's going to be next week. But the pool, right? I mean, the pool, I think, are we open there at the Splash Park? The pool?
Yes, we actually opened the pool today.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, Splash Park, we got open last Friday, I think.
Now, are you worried about that, or maybe you're the wrong person, or health department, as far as just tracking that and opening it, or
with the Splash Park, we have it signed and things as far as we don't want we only want so many people on the pad at any one time, and
right.
basically we have advised people to practice the social distancing, at least to whatever extent possible.
Sure.
Family members can play together, those types of things. We're not really experiencing any problems over there. I think the kids are really having a good time and having fun. Practicing the social distancing, I don't care where you go or where you are, it's going to be a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And with our pool, we've limited the number of people that will be allowed in the pool at any, or in the facility basically at any one time. The number is limited to 50. We have a check-in sheet and a check-out sheet to make sure that should we have an outbreak that's attributable to the pool, at least we have a tracking mechanism for everybody that was there.
Good.
So, that's all been implemented. We have cleaning practices put in place there. So every hour, everything's going to get, kind of washed down, sprayed down, wiped down, those types of things. Every couple of hours, we'll change sessions, which means that I think it's during the week, we're going to have 2 sessions where the pool is open. It's in the afternoon, like from 12:30 to 2:30, and then 3:30 to 5:30 or something like that. And basically what we do at the end of each session, everybody will have to go out, leave the facility, give us the opportunity to do a little bit better cleaning process. And again, all about safety.
Gotcha.
That's what our concerns are at this point in time. And we're committed to doing a good job, doing good work, and providing our community members with, I believe, an outlet that they truly need at this point. So
no, it is. And I mean, yesterday I got to go to baseball. So I took my 7-year-old down to baseball, and you saw a pretty good turnout there. Everyone being safe, social distancing, being safe, and it's just good. And he got to see his friends for the first time in 4 months, I guess,
Yeah.
And so it just feels good that things are opening. What about fair? I hadn't heard about that, and I might be behind on that too. But have we heard anything about that?
The latest and greatest on the fair anyway is that we believe that the fair will happen. Okay, especially the 4-H activities and those types of things. And I know that they're looking at even providing for all. Excuse me one moment.
That's okay.
Providing for basically a typical fair is what they're shooting for. Although it may be a little bit less attended, as
Right.
far as, I really doubt that you're going to see a carnival come in. That's
Why not? Those are the cleanest things ever. No, I mean,
and when it comes to the food trucks and things like this that were there, I think that we'll see less of those. They're a little bit harder to control, again, we want to make sure that the environment down there is a safe environment. Now, the city really has nothing to do with that other than, we help where we can as far as putting it on. But it's the county fair, and the counties are the ones who put those on. But the latest variance that was achieved by the county was to allow for up to 250 people per acre.
okay. That's a lot.
To congregate and things. And you break it on down. I mean, basically you're looking at, a large footprint there where you can get a large number of people in using the state requirements for social distancing. That's one of the things that they're going to have to try to address when it comes to that is the whole social distancing aspect. It's a little bit easier to do in the stands, when people are there for, whatever event may be taking place, out there on the field. It's a little bit easier to address, and so I don't think it'll be, that big of a problem.
Do we know when it would be? Would it be like normal time at the end of July then?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
They just try and find a way to, if they had, a rodeo or anything, you would just sit everyone and then.
I haven't heard of everything that's going to take place there yet, but I know it's coming, and it'll be coming. It'll probably be posted pretty quickly, so that everybody has the opportunity to prepare,
right,
and plan for. It'll probably be one of the few that takes place, in the state. So
yeah, I hadn't heard if there were other places that were still.
I did hear that the Colorado State Fair, which is always in September, last part of August, first part of September.
In Pueblo, is that?
In Pueblo.
Yep.
Always there. I heard that they are also going to be having that fair. It'll be, again, a little bit smaller than what we're used to, but they're excited about it. I'm excited about it. I'm excited for our fair. I think, again, it gives us something else to do after being tied to our homes for, a month.
Quarantine or being safer at home. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good. And then I think also some good news that I wanted to talk about was it seems like from a budget standpoint, things have still been looking pretty good for the city from that aspect, right? As far as like sales tax, revenues, and
yeah, our sales tax revenues are running much better than anticipated, especially during this COVID-19 response that we've had. And I attribute it to several things. One is when we get confined to our homes and to our areas with travel orders being restricted throughout the state, everybody tends to kind of stay in the area and do a little bit more shopping at home, which is always a good thing.
Buy tons of toilet paper, right?
Absolutely, yeah. We saw the stores get wiped out. So that's one area that I attribute to that. Our sales tax has stayed relatively healthy through this. Some of the other areas are that I have also seen that through the wind farm that is still being constructed. We still have a lot of folks in town from that are purchasing whatever they need here locally as well, which obviously helps. And plus the whole pipeline has also gotten started here in our area. And so that's added again to basically our population base, which increases the revenue base as well. The one area where I'm not happy to see it come from is that because this affects all of us and it affects all of our pocketbooks pretty severely, is that I've also noticed that there's been a rise in the cost of goods. And so associated with that, obviously, sales tax that people pay also goes up. So there's that effect as well. But
again, that's tough because that's going to be everywhere.
It is everywhere. It is everywhere. And even though gas prices went down during this whole thing, which helped,
right?
But that was a result of nobody traveling. So we had a lot of
and a surplus, right?
Yeah,
because when you shut something down,
absolutely.
you have tankers sitting out there full of oil that did no storage. I mean,
can't even be processed. So we have found ourselves in a very unique position compared to other municipalities around the state. I've talked with several over there on the western slope that they're looking at 40 to 60% reduction in revenues. Most of their revenues are tourist-based, though.
Right.
And so with the stay-at-home orders, that meant no traveling to these areas, and they virtually lost an entire season of earnings, and they're going to be feeling it for years to come, in especially in the mountainous areas,
like Gunnison, Lake City, places like that.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. But from what I understand, most of that stuff's getting more open, like here, right? I mean, you can go up there, and so at least maybe they'll salvage part of the summer. But But for us, we haven't had that battle.
No, we haven't, and I'm pleasantly surprised.
Knock on this table,
exactly.
Right?
Lodging tax is running a little bit lower than what it was last year, but we have less people in town right now. But even though a lot of our hotels are full, we have held our own on lodging tax, and I believe that by the end of the year we'll meet our revenue projections with lodging taxes as well.
Wow.
So
excellent. Couple other issues. I mean, this is just feedback that I get from people around town, right? I mean, and just maybe you can give a little bit of insight on it. One, I get a ton of, and it hasn't happened in the last couple of weeks, but I always get asked about the power, like what we're doing to work on power outages. And it seems like and rightfully so, we get strong winds out here. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I think we set a record, right? It was like 110. There was like a burst. It reminded me on top of 14er. I mean, it was like 110 mile per hour. Or maybe that was further north as blowing semis over.
Yeah, it was a little bit north of us here, but we still recorded 70 to 90 mile an hour gusts, or right here in Burlington.
And so obviously that's going to cause havoc, right? And I mean, you get freezing rain and stuff. But you've been here for 3 years now, and I think we had maybe a company from Denver come down and look at that and help us with that, make recommendations. Where are we at on that?
Okay. The first thing that we did here a couple of years ago with this, and I am like everybody else. When I turn my light switch on, by God, I want that power to come on. And if I'm working in my office and I'm on the computer and the power goes out, I get just as angry as everybody else out there. But the biggest effect on any electrical grid is the weather.
Right.
And there's two things with the weather that wreak havoc, and that is high winds and freezing rains.
We got them both.
And this year,
we've
perfect
had
storm.
plenty.
Yeah.
Right.
And what we all know that those are coming, and that they come at the most inopportune times when the power will go out. You never lose your power on a 70-degree sunny day with 15 mile an hour wind. You lose it when it's 40 below and it's snowing and it's just horrible, outside. Now you have no way to heat your house or anything else. And so we were committed to developing a program whereby we could loosen or lessen the outage experience that we have here. And so the first thing that we did is we had our system looked at and designed to where we went through what we called a conversion project, where we converted the our lines all to one type of power instead of multiple types of capabilities. And what that does, supposedly, it will lessen the opportunity for outages, because now you have consistent power going throughout the community. What we felt by doing this, though, is periodically we have to go and we have to tune up all the transformers in town,
Right.
depending on the time of year, because we know that demand, especially during the summer months, demand for energy is much higher in the summer months than it is in the winter months.
Gotcha.
And so
air conditioning and everything like that.
Absolutely. And that really has an effect on a power grid, where if demand gets too high and we can't meet that demand, then all of a sudden we get into what they call these rolling brownouts.
Which we haven't experienced that. I mean,
no, we have not, and so and we want to prevent that.
Right.
But after we got the conversion project done, then we started looking at our system, and what we're in the process of doing now is developing a maintenance program, a maintenance plan, and protocols that we will have in place to where we identify where our trouble spots are, and get a capital plan put in effect to where we can actually address, certain needs throughout the community that are still out there. Because the conversion project only touched a portion of the town.
Gotcha.
It wasn't everything.
Yeah.
And we've discovered a lot, by going through this, about our system, and we continue to get better and better and better. As
So it's
time
a work
goes
in
on.
progress right now.
It is, and it's going to always be a
Sure.
work in progress, especially when the rules that we operate under, even though we own our system, there are federal and state guidelines that we have to meet. And so we have to be very aware of those and make sure that we address those things in a timely fashion as well. And not only that, but there's a lot of regulatory agencies out there that we work with. And we also, our power actually is supplied from a variety of different sources, which the community probably doesn't know. They know that we purchase our energy from Excel.
Right.
But 10% of our energy needs also come from an entity called WAPA. They're Western Association of Power Authorities.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's all hydro-generated energy. And so it comes from the dams and things, specifically up in the Nebraska area is where a lot of that comes from. And then, but our energy from Excel, they purchase it from Tri-State.
Right. I'd heard of Tri-State.
Yeah, and so we have to pay fees and charges to Tri-State, and Tri-State is a big player, in this neck of the woods. And so a part of our plan, though, for the future is to have another substation constructed here in Burlington that will basically split the community a little bit to where we don't experience these spikes and
the on-off, because that's the big complaint I get.
Exactly.
And the beautiful thing is this forum is just to get our message out and try and amplify it, right?
Absolutely.
I know I'm not asking you anything that you probably don't get calls on.
Right.
Because, I hear it all, I get it too. Mm-hmm. So, and it, when you look at that one outage, I think that was in the winter, I can only think of one big one, but that was everywhere. I mean, I remember Lyman was out, and I think it was, there were multiple things, and and it got on pretty quick. The frustration that I hear is more like if it's not super cold and not super windy, and then when it's like, I think a few weeks ago, we on a Sunday night or a Monday where it's on off, so,
Yep.
But it sounds, like I said, I know you're aware of that, and it sounds like we are going to be working.
We will always experience, spot outages.
Oh, it's not
even if it was likened to me one time that, anytime anybody sneezes, the power goes out, It's, Yes, that may be true. It's not
wouldn't say
quite
it's
that
that
bad, but you know, I'm appreciative of the information. You know,
Right.
these are the things, you know, that,
No,
that I
and
need
there's
to hear, because you know it is perception, and it is reality to many people out there. And so, you know, it's okay to hear those things.
Yeah.
You know, I like to always take the opportunity to set the record straight. Is that, you know, it takes a little bit more than a sneeze.
Oh yeah. And there's always nuance, right? And I mean,
and-
that's why you're trying to get the information out there to figure it out.
And one of the things that we are aware of, and that we are addressing as part of our maintenance plan to our system, is that we have a pole replacement plan that we have implemented, where we are slowly changing out the poles and getting straightening the poles. I mean,
Sure.
we've all driven around the community and seen every one of them leaning in a certain direction. You know,
Right.
it's, you know, that's not good. But
No,
we've
but it
had,
looked like I've seen trucks too working on some of that lately, and then I know some of them are marked colors, and so obviously there's a plan, and we're just implementing it and getting there.
exactly.
And this
And
the
it's-
last 5 months and what's gone on hasn't helped. I mean,
Right.
obviously, so
Correct. Between that and then you never know what you're going to get when when the trees start to bloom,
sure.
and because that's when they grow, and they grow. You know, it seems like 3 feet overnight, and you end up with all the branches and things in your
Taking
lines.
stuff down, yeah. And if
And-
one snaps, like happened a couple weeks ago
Yeah.
out by Colorado Land, I mean, that's
We lost a line because basically, you know, we had trees that blew over on it. We lost basically three different areas all at the same time, and it was all caused by the wind. And we experienced that day. We had a 5-hour outage, but that's how long it took us to replace poles, put the lines back up, and put fuses and switches back in. And
in that scenario, that's great.
yeah, it
I
is
mean, and
perfect.
you know, when those guys are working out in that rain and they've got traffic going by, maybe people aren't slowing down. I mean, there's a lot of things that you just don't think about.
Exactly,
So,
and there's everybody knows as well as I do that working with electricity, it's very, very hazardous. As well. And
not to
here
mention
you're doing
in
it
100, with rain and wind and people trying to get where they're going just as fast. Yeah.
And so we do what we can. We're continually checking our systems and making the necessary tweaks that we need to. And we want to hear from everybody as to what their concerns are, especially where we can identify them, as the city and the owners of the electrical grid. But there may be some things that are taking place that we may not know about. So,
Gotcha.
we do rely on the public to call us and let us know where these things are, so that it may not just affect you, a homeowner, in a certain area of town.
Right.
It may be a lot bigger than that. And they're definitely the things that we want to know about.
Sure.
Because, we had a meeting with a electrical engineer, I think it was about a week and a half ago, where we were actually going over our maintenance plan and things. And we were calling out, okay, these are the areas that we see that we need to address, and we need to address sooner rather than later. And this is what becomes our capital plan.
Gotcha.
For the future.
Sure.
Is addressing these things. My goal is, if I had my way, we would have an underground system.
Okay. No, and that's the point, right? And so when
Yeah.
people ask me that, and like, what do you guys, and so it's just good to hear. I mean, and obviously the awareness is there. It's just,
Sure.
I think they just want to know that there's a plan being worked on, and underground would be good. I mean, that would only
it would
cost
be-
like $50 million or something.
Yeah, somewhere around there, yeah.
No?
So, just a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, right.
But I don't want to, what I want the public to know and to understand is that we're not just kicking the can down the road.
Right.
We're trying to improve the system, and we are improving the system daily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making it, because we all love this community. We all live here. I
Absolutely.
mean, everyone's doing the best they can, and then the circumstances have changed, obviously.
You bet they have.
So then the next item that I get a lot of questions about is law enforcement.
Sure.
Where are we at on that? How do you see that? I mean, how obviously Look, everyone knows what's been going on the last few weeks. I mean, we were defunding police and trying to do it maybe in Denver. It's happened in Seattle. It's happened in other places. That's made it hard. But what do you think the state is now, and where do you see that going, and challenges ahead?
Well, as everybody knows, we are extremely shorthanded at our police department. And it's not for a lack of funding.
Right.
It's from we just don't get a whole lot of applicants out here in rural Colorado that want to be police officers in a very rural community. So the applications that come in are not great, but we also don't pay as good as, say the Front Range does.
Is that something that we can look at changing? I mean, do you think we need to look at that, like in prioritizing that, or do you think we're in a good place and maybe even we'll have better applicants now based on circumstances?
I think that it could go one of two ways, at this point in time. With everything that's going on right now, with the movement to defund police, the state of Colorado just enacted Senate Bill 217, which is their addressing the law enforcement issue as we're seeing it take place, around the country. And it's basically, we're going to hold law enforcement accountable for everything that goes on out there. And so they've taken a lot of ability away from law enforcement to do their jobs the way that they were trained to do their jobs. And so with this is now going to come a complete retraining of law enforcement, at least here in Colorado. Fortunately for us here is that we do not just here in Burlington, but the state of Colorado, is that, we've all seen this, no chokeholds allowed type of thing. Well, that's always been the law here in Colorado, but we just had to restate it again in Senate Bill 217, right, that they're not allowed. Law enforcement had something on the books that was called qualified immunity, which was a attempt to give law enforcement officers acting under the color of their authority, doing their jobs as they were trained, to take away the ability for them to be sued in situations,
right?
Certain situations. Senate Bill 217 eliminates qualified immunity, and so attracting people to law enforcement, knowing that just by doing my job, you mean I can get sued? Well, that's always been the case. But qualified immunity kind of gave the law enforcement that little lifeline out there that said, okay, don't worry about it. We'll take care of you over here. That all went out the window. And a lot of it is because of, actions of others and things that have transpired. Does it mean that we will be changing the way that law enforcement acts and responds and reacts to certain situations? Absolutely, it does. The other thing that's in that Senate bill, there's a lot in that Senate bill that has to do with body cameras. That every law enforcement officer now will be required to wear a body camera and to have it activated when dealing with the public for anything. And if they turn it off, they can be held criminally and civilly liable.
Wasn't that so? And I always thought that maybe it was just in the last couple of years that changed. But I thought maybe it had changed to where they already almost had to do that. I mean,
in a way, Colorado's been moving towards that to
Gotcha.
where every law enforcement agency was required to provide their officers with body cameras, and I do believe it was by 2025. They've upped it.
Gotcha.
It's now 2023. And they've also put the state on notice that they will maintain a database on all contacts with law enforcement. And so it causes jobs, for some, not here in Burlington or anything, but it just makes it a little bit harder to hire people because of all the regulations, protocols that came down through.
On top of where we kind of were already out
Yeah.
here on the
Yeah.
border of Kansas, I mean, we're, Colorado and Kansas, 2.5 hours away. So it's just another challenge. But like I said, maybe there will be opportunity out of some other big cities. I mean, you never
Sure.
know.
You know,
I guess
and-
the message is that we're open for business, right? As far as that goes, we have
Absolutely.
the budget. And if there's people seeing this,
Yep.
where would they reach out? To
Just reach out to either myself or anybody at City Hall or to the police department itself. We have applications. They're online. We can access them there. You just fill out an application, and I can assure you that once we're in possession of that application, you will be contacted within a week.
Right.
We want people.
Yeah, and then
right
wasn't part of the another challenge was that like some of the academies weren't open because of
Well, and that's one of the biggest things that we've been facing at this point in time. We have several people that we have extended conditional offers of employment to that aren't able to be employed by us until they go through a academy where they get their certification from their what they call the Peace Officer Standards and Training post certificate. It's basically a licensure to be a cop,
Right.
and carry on, in that fashion. And so it's with COVID-19, most of the academies are either run through a local law enforcement entity, usually a larger one, such as, like I know that Adams County has their own police academy. Denver PD has their own. Colorado Springs has their own. I think Fort Collins has their own. I know Grand Junction has their own. So there's several places, throughout the state where some of the larger law enforcement entities, they actually have their own. And if you have somebody that needs to attend, as long as they are sponsored by another law enforcement agency, meaning that they have that conditional offer of employment,
right.
They can also attend those
Okay.
academies. Again, you have to pay for it and all, but it's not a big deal. The other academies are typically run through the community colleges around the state. And so there's numerous ones of those. In fact, I even taught at one for years. There's plenty of opportunity there for people to go to. If they want a career in law enforcement, all they have to do is, sign up, go through the academy, and they're, once you get through and you get that post certificate, you're pretty much guaranteed a job, because what we're experiencing here in Burlington is not unique
Right.
to us. This is a nationwide problem that law enforcement is having right now, is to hire, train, and retain qualified people
Right.
in law enforcement. And it's a tough job. It's a thankless job on a lot of times, a lot of occasions. And what most people don't know is, these guys are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right.
And it takes its toll, especially on family life, and I've been there. I know that,
Right.
I get what's going on. And so, I'm committed to hiring qualified people for the Burlington Police Department, getting them on board, getting them out there, getting them serving Burlington. In the past, we've had some pretty good candidates that have been local, that,
Right.
they were born and raised in our community. In fact, our department is pretty much staffed by that at this point in
Burlington
time.
natives, right.
That's right. And they don't want to go anywhere else. They want to be here. So we've had pretty good luck in hiring people like that. But in some occasions, you get these people on board and they really enjoy what they're doing. They're great officers, but they want to go see what it's like
In a
next
bigger
door.
place. Yeah. Sure.
Sure. And I went through that in my career as well. And and I can't fault anybody for doing that, and
No.
trying to make ends meet and things like this. But we have a starting wage that's representative of Burlington, and I think is perfectly agreeable to getting folks here. So I'm just hoping that some folks listen to this, hear this, take advantage of this opportunity that, we do have.
Me too, because I mean, it's so important,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, we stand behind our law enforcement here in Burlington, and absolutely.
Yep.
And this would have been a different conversation 6 months ago,
Sure.
when we were first doing this concept and everything. So much has changed. I mean, got pushed back 3 or 4 months, and obviously everything's changed it.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's made it harder, even in the last 3 weeks. So I mean, I know that's going to be a challenging environment now.
It is, and but we'll get through it, and it's one day at a time, one step at a time for law enforcement here. At this point, but. Our goal is to come out bigger, better, stronger, through the whole thing, and I know that it can be done.
Well, and we're lucky that we have you here with all your experience, both in that aspect and just being the city manager. So thank you for that. I guess those were the main points I had. And then, is there anything else that you'd want people to know? I know they're going to be right before the 4th of July next weekend, but those are the main points that I get asked about. So I wanted to make sure I asked you. But you might get different ones. Is there any other topics other people are bringing up that you want to address, or just let the people know, or anything? Or?
There's most of the feedback that I get is that, well, first off, I'd like to say thank you to all you people out there that are watching or listening to this, that call and thank us for the service that the city employees are actually doing, because they are a highly group of dedicated people that are very, very interested in serving this community, me included in all of this. And I'm proud of every one of them and what they do and the work that they do out there. Some of the things that we do hear about is that sometimes there's a lot of misinformation that may be put out there for whatever the reason may be. We are trying to build upon our social media platforms so that we can tell our story rather than having
fake
other
news.
people tell
Are we talking
it
about
for
fake
us.
news?
Yeah, there you go. So look for that to come.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
okay, so that's on the pipeline, basically.
Yeah, I'm really committed to getting that out there, because a lot of the phone calls that I get is like, no, that didn't happen, or yes, it did happen, but it didn't quite go the way that you think it did, and those types of things, or just like what we talked about with our electrical system. We get the same thing with water and with wastewater and our other utilities. Why do you do certain things? And so, I want to be able to tell our message. And so, we're going to get better about getting information out there. But it's going to be a timing thing. Obviously.
It is, and it's tough. And I mean, that's kind of what prompted our idea behind doing something like this, is because technology has moved to a point where it's available. Mm-hmm. Like, you can do this. You can go and you can film this. You can get it on multiple platforms.
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of rural areas haven't embraced that yet.
No.
I mean, because they're used to a traditional model where you're going to have like a news crew or you're going to print media, and it's kind of weird. I'm surprised more small towns aren't doing it, and hopefully they will.
Right.
Because there is the access to do this type of thing and get a message out and deliver, information.
Right.
So, that's the whole principle behind us doing this too. Yeah. And it sounds like you guys are moving that direction too.
We all have to,
right.
At this point, I hate to say it, but I'm getting used to these virtual meetings and things,
Oh, are you?
I don't
I
like
see
them
you don't
as
have
much,
a flip phone, so that's good.
Yeah. I'm getting better at it. And so,
the Zoom meetings and everything. I mean, it's
the only problem with these though is that what I see that comes from them is that everybody's in a hurry right now, and so we're not given the time to really delve into the tough topics and the tough subjects and things, and so we just kind of skim across the top of it. And so, like,
You mean
even-
like as a nation or a community or both, or
I-
just
I
kind
think
of
all
like
the
a
way around.
society? Like, okay.
Yeah, I really do. And I really saw that when we were doing our virtual council meetings, in that I think that we had one that lasted 22 minutes. And I was like, whoa, what just happened here? And it was basically just...
And that might have been like in February or so, right? I mean,
I think it was the first one that we did, the first virtual meeting that we did. So it would have been in March, but yeah. But
well, and maybe that was because people weren't. That was a weird time.
it was.
People have a lot of anxiety, angst. They're not used to doing Zoom meetings. I mean, even with doing, the Republican assembly and some of those caucuses and everything, and going to a virtual. I mean, that's there are challenges there, and you have pushback. I think some people aren't used to doing that. But 22 minutes, that's pretty quick. I mean,
and I'm not used to that. And,
No.
I've been accused of always talking a little bit too much, but that's okay too.
Well, I think you
like I
have
said,
to. I mean, you have to flush out stuff. It's not all surface level. I mean,
exactly. And I, as the city administrator, my role in all this here, that I do is to basically, I'm in charge of managing and implementing city council's plan,
right?
and taking your direction in making decisions out there and putting them into an operational context to get carried out. And so that's my role. So it's hard for me to do that if I don't have all the information. And so, I don't particularly care for 22-minute meetings. I want information just like council wants information. And so, message to the public is that, we are open for business. Council is open to hear, whatever your concerns and complaints may be as well. And, please come, please voice them. We want to hear. If we don't hear, we feel that everything's going along swimmingly, and it may not be. So,
well, and maybe even if you come with some complaints, have the ability to maybe even offer some solutions, right? I mean, I know from a background of working in corporate places, it's always nice when you can come in and have a couple ideas of a way to make things better.
Yeah. Have you thought about this? Yeah.
Yeah. What if we tried this? So that always works out good. Well, I know, and I know I don't say this, lightly, but I know from I talk to other people, we really appreciate the fact that you're here. And especially in a time like this, I mean, it's good to have somebody that's got experience that is sensible. So thank you. I just wanted to say that. And then thanks for doing this. And then hopefully you'll come back in a few months and, can see where we're at. And
absolutely. Share some more information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right.
I look
well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Well,
thanks, Jim.
you.
Okay.
Great.